What's up, y'all? How y'all doing out there? God's man MJ. Greetings to y'all all out there. So let's get to it. Conversation that came up uh, kind of yesterday. So yeah, Sunday after service, and it was something that was always kind of like, you think about it, or especially in church circles, things of that nature, when it comes to uh, church culture, should I say. And it was along the lines of like turnover. Why is there such a high turnover, in churches? And what I feel is that there's these churches where God is there. God is always on his job. His presence is there. It's a praying church, etc. All the boxes are checked for the divine things that happens in that church. You know what I mean? All those boxes are checked, without a doubt. But why is there still such a high turnover? Why don't people stay? Why are people leaving? It just, in its humanity, it boils down to, of course, the people. And I've heard a mighty man of God say to me, or explain to me, why they knew why someone wasn't digging the church, wasn't feeling the church. And it wasn't about hurt. It wasn't nothing like that. It was just that they felt, and from their continued experiences at that church, that the people were just unkind, the saints. So this had me go and chat with God about it, a little like, Lord, what's what? Like, Abba, what's what? And when you're in the fivefold ministry, that's one of those things you'll hear the men of God say that, oh, you held to a higher standard, all of that type of stuff, and that's true, without a doubt. But yet, those offices in the fivefold ministry, you're even held to an even higher standard. And I think I posted something, and it was along the lines of the kind of the hierarchy of the fivefold ministry and what each office does. Paul explained it. I forgot what book it's in. Maybe one of the Corinthians. He explained it. He explained how the husband should be, a husband of one wife, this, that, all the order, all of the criteria, qualifications, whatever you want to call it, to be in these offices, to be in these positions in your church, the ecclesia, right? So it comes down to us, the people, the humanity of the people, the heart of the people. And case in point, who's the head, the leader in churches? There's pastors. And one of the descriptions or characteristics of the pastor is that the pastor should be a nurturer. A nurturer. The pastor should be a nurturer, because the pastor's dealing with day-to-day saints, day-to-day activities, day-to-day problems of members in the congregation, etc. So they got to be, in my opinion, the most gentlest out of the five. The most gentlest, the most nurturing, the most compassionate. And I'm not saying be like a pushover, be a sucker towards the saints and but even in pastoral correction, if you have to correct somebody, in the church, it should be gentle, period. It should be nurturing. It should be gentle. It shouldn't be abrasive. It shouldn't be abusive, because you kick the sheep with your words. And then again, and not just the pastor, but it do start with the pastor off top. The pastor sets the tone, and then it trickles down to the administration of that church of how they also treat people. So if the pastor's a nurturing type and they always see the pastor, cool as a cucumber, even when they're frustrated, they still handle it respectfully, lovingly, etc. That should trickle down into what the admins say, what the associate pastors see, what the executive this sees, or in that administrative leadership in that particular local church. And when there's no nurturing, when there's no loving, when it's more dictator, when it's more yelling and yada, then you wonder why. Like, dang, this is such a powerful church. God is here. The move of God is here. The worship team be on fire. Everything, the message, the pastor preached the house, but then people be leaving left and right. People be leaving left and right. And again, God's there. God always does his job. God ain't never late. He always on time. He always punched in. He always work. He do his part in the church. When it's time, he come and move in the church. He take over. He do whatever he want. So it ain't God. It's not God. And you see the people leave these good churches. I mean, good churches in the fact that it's a praying church. It's a spirit-filled church. They preach the word church. Like, all of that it's up top. It's good. It's valid. But it's us humans. It's leadership. It's, the pastor. It's, because when you do, when you kind of like X out everything to see, okay, well, it ain't this, well, it ain't that, no, it ain't that. And then when you do have a pastor or admin in the church that do have poor character, they're not nurturers, they're emotionally abusive, they like, man, maybe you should be an evangelist or something. I mean, I'm not saying that to be, rude or anything, but if you don't have a nurturing spirit to watch over the flock right, then of course they're going to dip and go to a church, where there's more of a nurturing presence. There's more of a nurturing spirit coming from the leadership, the pastors of that church. Like, they probably came out of the world from abusiveness. Like, they don't want to expect that and get the same abusive, emotional abuse, verbal abuse from the pastor. Like, the church is the last healing hope. Like, come on, man. So I was like, man, okay, like, that does make sense. When you have people in pastoral positions and they don't have that nurturing in them, and then they pastor, with an iron fist. And don't get me wrong, some saints, they put up with it. They long suffer, they put up with it. Been at the church for, 10, 20, 30 years, but they know they pastor or their leadership is out of pocket with their mouth, with how they maneuver. And it's not nurturing. It's not the description of what a shepherd should be to the flock. So it's like, man, the church shouldn't be like Walmart or one of these hard places to work at where the turnover is so high. Like, man, like, and you look back at it like, well, ain't no saints been called on to glory. Just last month we had, the pews filled. It was a packed house And then 2 months later, during the preaching, it's only 50 people, tops, including the kids that didn't want to go to Sunday, whatever. But, and it shouldn't be that. Like, why everybody just dip? Why everybody leave? Why everybody, and it's like, again, God did his job. God was there. God was on point. It's us. It's the people. It's the leadership. And again, it starts at the top. Just like in a business, business is going south, business bad. Who you look to? The CEO, right? Typically, the right pecking order, the CEO should get called to the carpet first. And that's the same like with pastor, the CEO, he the executive, whatever, you know what I mean? You get caught like, well, why people keep leaving your church? His pastor or his you go up the chain of command, his bishop should be wondering like, well, what's up with the decline in people leaving your church, the membership and things of that nature. And so again, pastors, they should definitely be nurturers. If you were more loving, probably more people would stay. I guarantee that, especially for certain churches. Some churches, yes. If the leadership was more nurturing, more loving, more compassionate, and consistent with it. Not like, oh, I love you, oh, fake hugs, fake love, and then all of a sudden they, barking at you. Why you doing that? Like, oh, what happened to the love? What happened to the compassion? What happened to all of that? Unfortunately, I know a lot of you saints, y'all seen it. I've seen it. I seen like, man, it was all love. Like, you was loving me. You ain't. Then all of a sudden they switch up, and all of a sudden now they, get too comfortable, get too familiar with you. And now they're yelling at you, raising their voice to you, talking down to you, yelling at you in front of other people, just reckless, wild and reckless. Like, come on, man. And some of them, they would make horrible bosses, in the workplace. Like, this how you treat the saints, your fellow saints of God. Like, man, and some people, they like that. You give them a little bit of power. I don't know. Entitlement, I don't know. But the turnover in the church, and there's some things that pastors got to get together in this hour, man. They preach it and, oh, revival, there's more people coming. Or you better get your personality and your act together, because there's going to be some hard people coming from off these streets that ain't going to tolerate it. And they ain't going to know about, what David did, how he didn't put his hands on God's anointed. They may be too new for that. They might put hands on you, pastor, preacher, elder, whatever. You jump slick with them, they from the streets, they fresh off, like, and you talking to them like you they abusive dad that used to beat them, or when they was a kid. And man, they see that, and that familiar spirit on them get to talking in their ear, spitting that venom in their ear. Next you know, they rushing the platform on you. I'm just, hey, y'all done seen some of these reels where, saints fighting, right? So, and it's going to be some even more crazy times, spirit of insanity on these people. So, pastors, starting with the pastors in the local church, nurturing, loving, gentle. Again, you got to know how to be firm when you need to be firm. When you're getting your chain pulled by one of the saints, you should tell them off with the mouth of God. Put them in their place with the mouth of God. You should be able to do that being a pastor. Sometimes that might be the writing on the wall. Like, okay, you can't love people anymore, love the shepherds anymore, and be nurturing to them consistently, then maybe you should hang it up. Like that office, meaning like maybe it's time for you to start evangelizing. Take God's message on the road or something, because your time of being the shepherd in the local church might be up. You know what I mean? So Because if you can't take it now, just again the wild and more reckless people that will be coming to the church looking, for the Lord, when all this craziness in the world hit them, they gonna come. They ain't gonna know how to handle that. So that's that turnover, man. It shouldn't be, especially when when God is popping in your church. It's on the leadership. It's on the pastor, and if it's the elders, if it's the admin of the church, shame on the pastor for allowing the admin to treat the fellow saints bad. Shame on you, the general, in that local assembly. You're sweet as pumpkin pie, you're nice, you're loving, whatever, all of that. You can't be letting, your assistant or associate pastor or your youth pastor be mouthy and slick talking and murder mouthing and doing that. You got to check that too. Not only check yourself, but you got to check everybody underneath you in the admin, church board, whatever. All of them. You in a position of leadership, you should be gentle and nurturing. And people should want to come. People should be like, man, this church, woo-woo, especially in these times, everybody looking for Jesus, looking for the Lord, man. Your church should be packed. People shouldn't be leaving. Like, for real, unless God is sending them on, or you've sent them on with your blessing, and it's time for them to start a daughter work on their own, or God called them to something else, you should send them off good. That's the only way I feel in this time that people should really be leaving your church, a local church, is because of that. Because of that. Like hitting the mission field or something like that. But other than that, it shouldn't be because I was mistreated by the pastor or mistreated by elders and etc. And you can't dismiss and, church hurt, they should tough it out. Like, no, bro. First off, we should all be operating in the fruits of the Spirit, and you know what those are. They shouldn't have to get tough and put up with you. Like, they shouldn't. Don't get me wrong, we human. We have our days, where we just grumpy. It's human nature, but they should not have to walk on eggshells. They shouldn't. No one should have to walk on eggshells. Period. Around the pastor, there should be peace. Like the morale in a church. The morale in a church should be high. Should be high. Without a doubt. Again, the pastor sets the tone, and everybody up under him. That's what it is. So when you see people like, man, they don't go there no more. And then you know them, like, dang, they good people, they solid people, why they leave? And then, unfortunately, you look at the pastor, you look at the leadership, and be like, dang, yeah, I see why they left. Because, when you know somebody, how they are, how their personality is, how they gonna react, it's like, dang. It's the humans, man. It's us humans, man. It's us humans that just, they say, they use their excuse, hurt people. Like, okay, pastor, leaders, elders, you deacon, you still hurt? Well, man, I don't know what to tell you, but you shouldn't be around these saints when you walking around, still bitter and taking it on the saints and being bossy, getting lippy. Then next you know, you got to do, because of your actions now, you got to do a foot washing and all these hugs. I'm sorry, but then it repeats itself. A couple years later, so it's just it just shouldn't be. But I don't know. That's what it is. The turnover in churches, in God-filled churches, sanctified, holy, powerful presence of God churches that yet still have a lot of turnover. It's the people, man. It's the people. And the people, when I mean the people, I mean the people at the top, the pastor and the leadership. Sometimes some people only stay because the or either or, like they love the leadership, the elders, the deacons, the board, so they put up with the pastor, or vice versa. The pastor's such a sweetheart, the pastor's such a nurturing, the pastor's always gentle, and they stay because of the pastor when it's the people up under him and the fellow saints in the pews that are the knuckleheads. you know but it should be loving, it should be genuine, it should be nurturing, and that's how the unity stays. You can't keep preaching about, oh, the church need to be unified, your local church need unity, 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 and you're part of the problem that's causing the disunity in the church, in your local church, in your home church. You know what I mean? So it just can't be that. You can't be, oh, we should be together. Why we can't get along? We're supposed to be brothers. Well, okay. You are absolutely one thou wow with that. But at the end of the day, you gotta live that. And you gotta show at the top. You gotta show that. So again, maybe you're a pastor struggling with that nurturing mode. You gotta might have to, I don't know, time to evangelize. Time to evangelize. Time to travel, take your sermons, take God's messages on the road. No more pastoring. No more pastoring a local church. No more pastoring a home church. Or you could teach. Go and teach. Or do both. Teach and evangelize. I don't know. Write some books. I don't know. But if people keep leaving and you're part of the problem and things like that, and I don't know. But let's see. So again, that's just something that kind of came up in conversation about pastors, leadership, if they actually have that trait to be a nurturer to the saints. So, and I thought to share that with you after me running it by God and what I've personally seen and things of that nature. So, that's about it. That's about it. So, think about it, ponder it, digest it. I'm sure you've been in the church. You've seen it. You've seen turnover. You've seen people, churches done baptized 10,000 people. Where they at? There should be almost some of these smaller churches that got 100 to 200 people, maybe 300. Like, why y'all ain't at 600, 800? You didn't baptize so many people. There's so many baptized people walking around here that don't got a local home church. Like, what happened? Like, turnover. They left. You weren't acting right. They was done putting up with it. Like, thank you. It was, so I don't know. So we all got to get it together as saints. Be welcoming to visitors, to guests, and again, it starts at the top. So about that kingdom business for all of God's children. All right. I love y'all. God bless y'all. And always remember, Jesus is King.
MJ.